Welcome to Experimarketing, the podcast where we innovate, create, and appreciate. Powered by Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. Here's the host of Experimarketing, Chief Experimarketer, Colin Carasquillo.
What's going on there, ladies and gentlemen, Experimarketers of all ages? We're back with another episode of Experimarketing episode 28, where we're going to be diving into website clicks. Website clicks, they're still clicking. That's right, people. But without further ado, let me bring on my co-host, Mr. Matt Wilson.
Hello, Colin. What's happening?
Hi, how are you?
Good, sir. Very good. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, it's great to have you back for another installment, another episode of Experimarketing. As stated, we're going to be talking about website clicks today, but we're actually going to take it back to the old school, if you will. And by old school, it's still very important with the new school, but zero click, right? Zero click search. You're familiar with zero clicks, right?
Yeah, I learned about it on Experimarketing with Colin Carasquillo.
That's right. We actually had a previous episode talking about zero click search, the importance behind zero click search. And of course, that deals with Google My Business, making sure your business profile is fully optimized. And actually, the guest, the expert that we had on for that episode, now a 3-time guest on Experimarketing, Mr. Brent Albrecht, is back today to talk about website clicks, but not just zero click. We're talking standard organic website clicks that are separate from a Google My Business profile. He conducted a really, really awesome study. And I mean, this is just enlightening for all of us. And we're going to bring him on right now. There he is. Brent, how you doing, Brent?
Good. Hey, guys. Thanks for having me back on again.
Absolutely. So for those out there, Brent is the VP of Business Development at Friendemic. He is an expert on all things Google My Business, website traffic, looking at reviews, looking at optimization of Google My Business profiles. You name it, Brent most likely knows what it is, how to optimize it, and to get your dealership to kick butt. But Brent, today we're talking about, of course, yes, the importance of zero-click search, but ultimately, like I said, going back to the old school, if you will, website clicks, right? So for everyone out there, just tell us zero-click search, what it is in a nutshell, just in case people missed the first couple episodes that we had with you. But go ahead, please.
Sure. No, thanks. And really, it's pretty easy, right? So people go to Google or other search engines, right? And they do a search. And here you find up all these results, but instead of clicking through to the website, you stop your search, and right. So that sounds like what it is, right? Zero click. Now, sometimes it's not a bad thing, and you can see as Google My Business pages evolve, and they have more and more information on there. I don't need to go to the website. If I'm searching for, we use the example a lot. I'm searching for a restaurant. I can see the hours they're open. I can see their address, phone number, but a lot of times I can make a reservation right there in Google My Business. So there's no need to go to the website. So it counts as a zero click. It's not necessarily a negative thing. I mean, you're still getting those customers, but it does change how people do business with us. And the big sort of concern, fear is I'm not getting that web traffic. I'm not getting them to my website. And for years and years, that's been our goal.
Right.
Get everybody to your website. Now you control them on your, on your site. You can convert them from there.
Yeah, no, and I think, just for clarification for dealers, what Brent is talking about on a Google My Business profile are those click to call buttons, are those click for directions, are those messenger buttons. And now I know I'm saying click, but the point being that it's not a click that is necessarily directing the individual to the dealership's website. Now, there is a website button that people can click on that will ultimately get them to the dealership website through Google My Business. And I want you to dive into your study, but I have some pretty interesting things too from my end in previous tests, if you will, or experiments that we've done through Experimarketing with Google My Business and what we've seen with the organic or direct traffic through Google My Business. But without further ado, what we're here today is you set out a hypothesis, if you will. And the hypothesis was that, and we'll have you tell us the hypothesis. What did you think was going to happen in terms of zero clicks impact on website clicks?
So, yeah, and we've been talking about zero click for a while here and other venues.
Sure.
lots of other speakers that will talk about zero click. And so I want to see how much website traffic has decreased like over the last year, right? Because Google's added products on there. There's Google Cards for Sale, right? So all these things are happening on Google My Business. Clearly, website traffic is going down. Let's see how much it's going down. And so to do that, then, we have access to a lot of dealers' Google My Business pages, and you can see the insights. I took 100 dealers and checked stats from last year, 9 months ago, to a period spring or second quarter this year when we went and published that, and said, all right, let me see how much traffic has decreased. And to set the stage, in that from third quarter 2020 to second quarter 2021, the click to phone calls, click to calls were up 9%. Direction requests were up 13%. So you're like, wow, all right, more and more people are using Google My Business. That's great. What happens on the website button, right? What's going on there? And I was really surprised to find out there was actually an 11% increase in website, click to website. So you would expect, if zero click is really impacting dealers, you would expect that number to go down because everybody's calling and going to directions, right? We don't need to go to the sites anymore. And that was not the case.
No, and I think that's one of the things, I said that we've done our own little tests over here, but one of the things that we discovered, and this is utilizing UTM codes or urchin tracking mechanism on Google My Business, that website button to our dealership's website, that, believe it or not, that click from the website button on Google My Business is always in the top 3 traffic sources of our dealership website traffic. So yes, I think it goes to show you that, sure, there's obviously an extreme importance on ensuring that your Google My Business and everything's optimized, as we've discussed in the past, and that you're prepared for these zero click searches with click to call and the directions. But the hypothesis, it sounds like when you started out, was, hey, this is actually going to be bad or negatively impact dealers because it's going to decrease website traffic, when in reality, we saw, and you saw, that there was an 11% increase on the website clicks, as well as an increase for click to calls and directions, just showing the importance of, one, the Google My Business optimization, or the fact that you can't forget the website. The website still exists. The website is still there. It's still exceptionally important, right?
Yeah, no, website traffic is alive and well. If anything, the takeaway is much different, which is, if I'm getting 11% more traffic from Google My Business than what I got even last year, I mean, Google My Business is even that much more important as you said, as one of the primary drivers of traffic to the website.
Right.
And it's not. I mean, I think there's people out there that think, oh, I needed to change my strategy, right? I don't need to invest in my website because people aren't going there anymore, right? I need to invest in Google My Business and other places to interact with them. And again, that's not the case. You need to invest even more in your website to make it really connect well from Google My Business, make it more mobile friendly.
Right. No, and I love that take on it, right? We'll call that Brent's hot take. But essentially, it's not moving the money away from your website, which is still exceptionally important. It's finding ways to actually bolster website performance, perhaps by even investing more money, as you mentioned, making sure that it's completely mobile optimized, that the path to purchase is frictionless for the customer, because all of these things work together. And as much as people won't say it, I believe it. Brent, I believe you came on here in the past and said it, but when your website's mobile optimized, that customer journey is as frictionless as possible to get that person down to the purchase, right? Google's looking favorably at these things, and ultimately that will probably enhance the traffic that you're actually even getting. On top of the 11% increase, you might see higher numbers in terms of traffic getting to the site, because now Google says, holy smokes, this dealer knows what they're doing. Their website's mobile optimized. They're providing this really enhanced and frictionless purchase process. They're giving all this relevant information to the customer. I want this dealer to show when a customer is searching for that specific manufacturer, make, model, whatever it may be.
No, definitely. And I think, there's a new term I'm becoming familiar with, talking to some of the website designers, right, that are building websites. And, almost every website, I would say almost every dealer website now, I guess, would be mobile optimized. Mm-hmm. And what they mean by that is I can view it on my phone,
Right.
But it's one thing to have a site that's viewable on the phone. It's another thing that it was built with like a mobile first strategy in mind.
Right.
And buttons and layout are done very different. And I think, you have to look at Google My Business is primarily like, this is mobile traffic that's coming to you. Step one of this whole research was, all right, I'm still getting a lot of traffic and even more traffic than I did last year from Google My Business. Now the next question I'd love to know is, are we retaining?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or because they're all coming on mobile, and if it wasn't really with a mobile first design, are they coming and leaving because the experience is what it could be?
Right. Right. So I think Matt went on a rant, if you will, in one of his episodes of Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. And he was talking about, which is actually a very good point, and you had just brought it up, but, kind of getting familiar with what the website developers are doing now. And they say, oh, it's mobile optimized, meaning, oh, it's just viewable on mobile. But Matt had a very good point. And Matt said, why is it that when web developers come to a dealer, right, or, whoever sits in, let's say, my position or whatever it is, they always show a presentation of a desktop, what the desktop version of the website will look like? When in reality, it should be reversed. You should show what the mobile version of that website looks like, or if the site's fully responsive or whatever it may be, and then show the desktop version. So there's a little trick for dealers out there listening. If you are perhaps looking for a new website or vetting new vendors, ask them what the mobile version of the site looks like, because listen, the data is out there. Majority of that traffic getting to your dealership website from a mobile device, and a good portion of it probably comes from a Google My Business profile, just as Brent had mentioned. But Matt, right? Wasn't that what you were talking about?
Yeah, exactly. I was vetting website vendors for a client of mine at Silverback, and I sat through, just like you, Colin. Those people approached me when I was on the dealer side, and I sat through, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 of the pitches, and they were all like, here's what our site looks like. And I was like, great. And then at the end, it's like, oh, here's the mobile site. I'm like, but isn't that the most important part? And it's crazy that we us three guys, everyone in the industry, we all talk about that. But then in that situation, like the practical execution of it, I was like, there's really, it matters what this size looks like first, then show me that size. But it's the same with homepage slides. We all design these homepage slides and have our strategies based on what's the dimensions of the homepage slides on the desktop site. And really, that's less important than what's it look like on the mobile site, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's something that, when we talk about making sure that your site is fully mobile optimized, it goes way further than Brent had mentioned that, oh, it's just viewable on mobile.
Right.
And there's a challenge for dealers out there. Look at your website. Look at it on a mobile device, see how easily you can navigate your website to get to those main profit centers. See with some of these new layouts that, website providers are rolling out, where those slideshows may fall. And I get it, there's some different OEMs that require different things in terms of where that slideshow banner placement is. But I mean, listen, I'll tell you this, and once again, the data's out there. I mean, if you have a slideshow with more than 3 slides, the amount of traffic you're actually going to get on slide 4, 5, 6 is greatly diminished, if not non-existent, compared to what you get on slides 1 and 2. 3 is even iffy at that point in time. But look at your website, see how quickly they load, see what that experience is like. I think at one point I heard, which was a great little tip out there for the dealers as well, it's called the mom or grandma test. Basically, if your mother or your grandma can't find what they're looking for in a matter of minutes, then your site is not as mobile optimized or friendly as it can be. So, hey, and for everyone out there, ask your mothers, ask your grandmothers to look at your website for you and see what they say. But ultimately, that all ties back to this increased traffic, right? So now we're talking about websites, but the point being that when your website is optimized like that, Google will look favorably upon your dealership's website. It will work hand in hand with Google My Business to ensure that your dealership is front and center when people are searching. And that's how we're going to continue to see this increase in traffic from a Google My Business profile, which I think, Brent, it was awesome that you had done this little study here. And I'm going to actually send a link, or I'll put the link in the description to the article, which is on dealer marketing, but you have a little graph in here, and literally just over time to see for the web visits in Q3 of 2020, Q1 in 2021, and then Q2 of 2021, you basically have here, there's 11,025 in Q3. Then we went to 11,610 in Q1 of 2021. And then in Q2, 12,235. So a crazy increase. I mean, for a dealer, almost an additional 600, 700 sessions. That's very impressive. And dealers would love to have that increase in traffic, especially when we start looking at the fact that inventory was a problem, right? There was less inventory on the ground, yet we're getting more people to our websites. That doesn't make sense. But what it's showing is that there's demand still out there, that people are still looking for vehicles, and that dealers, we need to do what we can with what we have on the ground because the people are out there shopping. And that's why you need to make sure your website is so optimized. So let's migrate then, or I guess kind of change gears here. We talked about zero click, what it is, right? We talked about your hypothesis that, hey, with zero click, we're probably going to see a decrease in website visits or website clicks to the dealership website. That actually was proven to be incorrect. So now we have a different hypothesis. But why do we care so much about zero click? I mean, if we could really just drive this home for people, I know we kind of talked about it, but why do we care about it so much, Brent?
I think it was, this idea of right, I want to be able to control the customer's journey, right, and exactly what they see. And the way to do that is if I get them on my website, right? If I get them on my website, then I can lead them through this path of homepage, go to inventory search, you go to SRP, you go to a VDP, right? Click a lead form, right? This is what I want people to do.
Right.
And all of a sudden, if they can see all my inventory on Google My Business, then like now it's a whole different path. And now it feels like it's a little bit out of my control. And then we're seeing, Google has, Google had Google products out there that you could deep link into like a VDP or a model search, but then now they have Google cars for sale, right? We see, probably not half and half, but right, half the dealers with Google cars for sale, which is live inventory, the other half have products. How do you manage that? And if they're going to see inventory, where is it going to take them? And how are we going to convert leads from this? Facebook had a very clear, all leads on Marketplace, all leads went through Messenger. Live chat. With Google, like how are these interactions going to work and how am I going to control them, right? And that's the concern with zero click. They'll look at my Google cars for sale and then where will they go if they don't come to the website? Right.
If they don't click through, they might just click to call, say, hey, I saw this vehicle online. And next thing you know, a person's thinking, oh, it might be the dealership website. But in reality, it was from just Google's cars for sale functionality there. And so, yes, even for attribution, I mean, that does make it tricky for marketers. And I completely understand where you're coming from. I think the whole point being here, and, we've talked about it before, is that with Google My Business, and as it becomes more, more sophisticated, right? What we need to do is kind of think about it just like how we thought about Facebook when we had Facebook Marketplace and when that was still functional, right? And you were listing cars through syndicated networks on the Facebook Marketplace, and your dealership website is you're giving people options that ultimately it's catering to the customer, right? What's most convenient for the customer? In theory, should be most convenient for the dealer, but sometimes it's not because, like you said, you are potentially risking that loss of control, or you feel at least like you have that loss of control. But in reality, you're trying to make the experience as frictionless and as easy for the customer. So if having it right there on Google with cars for sale or this zero click functionality is what a customer is going to want to do, you need to emphasize and put a lot of importance on that for your dealership's operations. But then don't forget about these other things that you're already doing. So your dealership website, Facebook presence, so on and so forth. I think, yes, it might be daunting because it's another outlet that we need to look at. But in reality, you'd be doing yourself a tremendous disservice if you refused to consider that as an outlet that's driving traffic to the site, because like you showed in your study, it absolutely is. So something else for us to focus on, but don't be afraid of focusing on it. Right, Brent?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think, the thing is you have to kind of, dealers need to spend time on Google My Business and see what it's looked like, right? Google cars for sale. It doesn't have all the filters to narrow down my search like it would on a dealer site. So, but if I'm going to get more traffic from Google cars for sale to my website, maybe I need to change. Maybe I need to have a better, suggested models, you know what I mean, or suggested other vehicles, knowing that they were on their mobile, you know, swiping with their finger, and they saw, you know, 8 or 10 or 15 cars, and that's all they saw. They're not seeing all my inventory, and now I'm missing out. So if that's what they saw first, I got to change how my website inventory works, so I can flip through other cars, make it easier for them to see what they missed with Google. You know,
Right.
different process. So it's a lot to kind of take in and learn, I think.
Well, that's it. And I think we need to be open to learning about it. I mean, I've seen mixed reviews, obviously, on, you know, the Google Cars for Sale functionality. You have a lot of dealers who say, oh, this is great. I get a little bit more exposure for my inventory. You have some dealers that say it's done nothing for us yet. You know, we're not getting any traffic through it. I think it's only a matter of time before you do start seeing more traffic through it. It's definitely something I need to do a deep dive on, because we do have it active at our dealership. But that's one of the things that I would like to see. And maybe we can come together for another episode where we talk about now Google Cars for Sale, because originally it was talking about, hey, did you hear they're doing this? And now they are doing it, and it's live. And so now you can start gathering some data about it. But I think you bring up a very good point, is providing that consistent experience from the Google My Business to the dealership website, but also some of the things that might be missed on Google Cars for Sale. Is it showing all of the inventory? I do know that one of the pain points for dealers, because it was happening to us, was that if you have a certain percentage of your inventory, let's say it's in a prep status and you still want to show it online because now there's no inventory, so you want to show more than you have, or a vehicle's not priced, Google will now basically penalize you if the vehicle's not priced. And if a certain percentage of your inventory is not priced, then your Cars for Sale functionality goes away altogether. So I think it's actually 5%. If more than 5% of the inventory is unpriced, then your Google Cars for Sale functionality goes kaput. So, you know, these are things that dealers absolutely need to be cognizant of, because I know right now, for example, even specific OEMs are, you know, showing vehicles on websites that might not necessarily be at the store yet, because they're saying, all right, yeah, it's in order status, or it's in prep status. Well, guess what? That could negatively impact your overall Google My Business Cars for Sale and rankings in general. So just all things to be aware of.
Yeah, same with photos, Colin. I've seen a lot of our dealers, they're not putting the photo on because the vehicles are in transit. But the new model with the inventory shortage is, you know, by the time the truck arrives at the dealership, most of these cars are sold.
Right.
Well, a lot of it, right? Well, that's the case. Like, as soon as I know like what's coming, like, you know, maybe that'll change like where vehicle photos need to be captured. Right. The problem is, right, they're like, well, I can't get a photo on until the vehicle arrives.
Right.
But it's in inventory now. My Google Cars for Sale stuff. What do I do? Like, is there a way to get photo? Manufacturers are going to start providing
beforehand,
photos.
right?
Get them up there sooner. I don't know, but you're right. It's
very interesting. You know, what I think I want to look at, I mean, bringing that point up, there are some vendor partners out there, for example, that OEMs recommend, like a VIN reel, or, you know, that do CGI photos that are VIN specific.
Okay.
I want to actually see, because we do have a couple of those vendor partners at some of our stores, what that actually looks like if the CGI picture is what's being shown online, or, for example, because the vehicle's not in stock yet and it is that in-transit unit, if it's not showing at all, right? And then once again, now we're in trouble, because like you said, we're only going to be showing a handful of vehicles. And you know what? Yeah, I guess inventory, people know there's a shortage, right? Dealers and customers know there's a shortage, and thank God they seem a little bit accommodating, right? But the fact of the matter is, when someone goes online and they see that you only have 5 vehicles, when in reality, maybe you don't have much more, maybe you have 25, it's still detrimental to say, oh, they don't have a selection. You know, I don't want to go to this dealership. They don't have what I'm looking for. I think it's just really uncharted territory. I think these are definitely things that we need to look at moving forward. And then ultimately how the Google My Business, Cars for Sale, all of this fits into the entire ecosystem, right? I mean, your website, your social presence and the social channels you're on, of course, Google. I mean, what are your thoughts for the future, Brent, and kind of how, you know, this will fit into that ecosystem? Does it become a a bigger portion of the pie, if you will? Does it carve out its own space and kind of stay there while everything else, like a dealer's website and social channels, kind of then build around that? Or what do you think happens?
I think it's going to be really interesting to see, because, and we keep, not trying to keep going back to Google Cars for Sale, but the idea is, like, if you take your inventory and you put it on Google Cars for Sale, that's one more aspect of very unique content that used to live on your website that doesn't now. Certainly Google Cars for Sale, while it can get you a lot more exposure, has to help the zero-click phenomenon, right? The more content I put on Google My Business, the less reason you have to visit my website.
Right.
So there could be dealers out there like, well, no, I don't want my inventory viewed there. I want it viewed on my website where it's going to be a better experience, where I can provide more information. And so maybe, I think the jury's, certainly out on Google Cars for Sale. Granted, you get a lot of exposure, but what's it doing to that experience and path they follow? And I think that's going to be the challenge for dealers to decide how much of my, content that's unique to my website do I share and put other places and make the website less unique.
Here's a fun one. You probably haven't been asked this before, but I'm going to ask it to you now because that's what we do here. So on Google My Business as well, they actually have Google websites, right? So I don't know if you've seen that, but under Google My Business on the left-hand side, there is a websites tab. And what that does is it takes in information from your Google My Business and gives you a Google website. Now, I don't know. I tried to run some experimentation with myself back in the day here where I just did that for shits and giggles. And I wanted to see if a Google website indexed quicker than a normal website would do. It was inconclusive because I really didn't have enough unique content to keep doing that. And I'd actually love to revisit that. But do you think, Brent, that at some point, whether it's a small scale operation, maybe it's a used car dealer, or, maybe it's a small independent dealer, whatever it may be, that you won't need a dealership website at some point in time because you're going to have Google everything?
I can see it more like with the independents, right? Sure. If you're a small independent lot, I don't have a service bay, right? We don't do fixed stops. I've got 40 cars and I need to get them online for the world to see. Yeah, I almost think like you
could do that.
My guess would be that a Google site would index really well. You would hope, right, that they're providing that it's going to index better in search, and it's just an easy way. And so really, what you need is, hey, I just need someone who can create an inventory feed for me, and and you go to Google Sites and you're done.
Right. I agree with that assessment. There's like a guy downtown here that's got we'll get anybody approved. He's got 40 cars parked out front, and he's not, what's the easiest way to get it on and get those cars up there? Like you said, you get an inventory provider, the site's built, you don't have to, it's not going to cost them $2,500 a month. No. Like to me, for that guy, the OEMs are never going to allow it for the rest of us.
Right.
but no, yeah, I think for the small independent guys, yeah.
They don't start selling on their brand, right? I'm not selling on my Ford brand. I'm not selling the staff, and they're like, it's a very product price driven, marketing strategy. You're like here's what I have, right, and that's it. And so in that case, I think those sites would work. Yeah, but I agree. I don't know the OEMs would ever want to relinquish control. On the opposite side, dealers, I think, are they going to get where they're going to have less and less inventory? Right, because everything's being sold on demand, and then we're talking about this in one of our meetings earlier this week that maybe, OEMs take back some of that control, and it's almost like the Amazon thing. I can have fulfillment centers or whatever all over the country of here's the cars you buy, and they arrive, and you pick up your car, and the only reason to go to the dealership is to pick up your purchase,
the vehicle,
right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think this is something that we were talking about. I mean, just in general, dealers and marketers, probably going back now 2 or 3 years ago, where it was more so, we're just going to become, fulfillment centers. But it's very interesting because I was talking to our general manager who's been in the industry for a very long time, over 40 years. And he was telling me, he's not concerned about this new business model, if you will. Like, for example, Ford is having individuals basically going to order their vehicles, and Ford will just ship the vehicles to the dealership. And that's what a Ford dealer may become, is a fulfillment center. And I know that's actually a proven statement that they are doing that. But, what was very interesting is the general manager said, well, back in the 80s, Colin, I mean, this is how we did business. We had a certain amount of vehicles on the ground. Let's say it was only a handful of cars. And then people would come in and basically order the exact vehicle they wanted. And the vehicle then would be delivered to the dealership. And it would be, you'd make a spectacle out of the person's vehicle being delivered. And, then the person would be very happy that their car finally arrived. And, I just see it as, one, it's like fashion, it's recycling, it's recirculating. But if we've done this in the past, the only thing that's going to be different now, essentially, is you actually have more outlets to probably make it more of a spectacle, right? You have all these social channels and all these things like this now of Google My Business, where now you can put all these pictures and all this great information about what your business can do in terms of pre-ordering your vehicles or custom order your vehicles and putting that out there to the masses. So I really, just like you, Brent, just like you, Matt, I'm excited to kind of see where this goes because, I mean, you think about it, we've done it before. We've done it. It's just a different iteration. This is version 2.0, if you will. So let's see what happens and let's continue to, obviously be excited for it. Let's accept it and welcome it with open arms, right?
100%. You got to be open-minded and willing to kind of bob and weave, adapt and move as things change. Bob and weave. Yeah.
That's what we do. We bob and we weave. And I mean, that's the industry in a nutshell, but that's why it's so much fun. That's why we love the automotive space. Brent, you have any closing thoughts for us, my friend?
I think it's just, dealers, you need to keep an eye on everything going on with Google My Business. It's changed very fast, very quickly over the last year. We're not done. Right? There's going to be more features, more changes.
We're not done.
You have to find the best way to have it, integrate with your customer's journey so you can, maximize the opportunity.
I love it. Yeah, I think one of the things I've said on a previous episode, which I'll just say again, is Google My Business. It's like your side door, right? So your dealership, you have your dealership, brick and mortar. You have your website. There's your front door, brick and mortar, this is a back door, and then your Google My Business is now your new side door. Fact of the matter is there are all ways to access your business, your dealership's inventory, get in touch with you, potential profit center right there. So Brent, thank you once again for being on. You're actually our first 3-time guest. You are our first 2-time guest. So obviously we must really like you and what you have to say. So we really appreciate it and keep up the great work for Friendemic over there. And of course, thank you for providing this awesome article, which is available on dealermarketing.com. We also want to thank them, our little sponsors for the episodes. But Brent's an expert on the expert panelist over there. So stay tuned for more of the great content and information he puts out there. That's today's episode of Experimarketing. You can stay tuned for another episode coming up in the coming weeks. But also connect with Matt and I on LinkedIn, as well as on YouTube and Facebook. Check out our podcasts. You might like some of the stuff. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next time. Thanks, Brent.